don't know if you were listening, what Sonny was just saying there about third downs and kind of having, call it a fun down, right? They get to do what create some havoc on third and longs. Just how much early on in the process did you see what Arvell and Sonny can kind of do in those situations? And I guess how do they kind of gain your trust and kind of having that free will of what they want to do there?
Yeah. It's kind of great at this point of the year. A lot of it, they've created through the course of the season. You build that stuff and let it grow as the players kind of learn and put the packages together. So, started out trying to really just see what they could do and how much interchangeability we could put into the unit when we get out there, and kind of just taught them from that conceptual standpoint. And sometimes, on the field, they're just you give them the concept of the call, but they're making the changes on the field based on what they see. So I think it's been really great. It's fun. I think that's where you get most excited, and you kind of got to earn your way into that third down situation with the early down play. So that's really important for, that everyone to understand, hey, we got to earn the right to rush on third down. If we're not taking care of our job on early downs, then we're not going to get that opportunity. But as much as we can kind of get out there and let those guys, show off their ability and their talent in that situation, it's great. I think both of them have really good coverage skills. They're both really good in the rush. They're big, they're long. I think some of the matchup stuff that they can do, and they have a little bit of savvy suddenness to them, which, when you are inside in some of those alignments, sometimes that quickness is just a little bit different than like a defensive tackle 3 technique or something like that. So I like to kind of just keep that spinning, but they do a lot of it on their own, which is fun. A lot of times they'll come back, we'll work on it in practice, and I'm like, what did you guys see? And then we'll talk about it and say, all right, well, maybe we should do this instead and make that call. So fun.
Dylan Davis.
Yeah, Matt, it would appear to us that like your defense, you're able to do a lot of stuff at this 1 year into your system. I guess how far along did you think you would be at this point? Did you exceed where you thought you'd be, and how much more is still to go that you can work in during bowl prep?
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if I really kind of said like, hey, by this point I want to have this amount of it in. I think a lot of it was let's teach this and see where it grows pretty much from that aspect of it, and just give the credit to the players. They're the ones that have really just embraced all of it, studied, learned, understand kind of some of the moving parts, and then the more moving parts that we have with it, then the more different kind of ways you can put the pieces together, which has been a lot of fun. So I think they've done a phenomenal job. I mean, like I said, give credit to the players. They're the ones that have studied and really worked hard to kind of make all of that go. And I think the guys have done a great job with the ownership of that. So super, super proud of them, super, excited for all the things that they were able to do with it, and, excited just to have an opportunity to play one more.
Left, Jared Smalley.
Hi, Matt. I wanted to ask you about Cade McDonald. He's obviously he's unanimous All-American now, and he's had this breakout season. You all in the building knew he was very good. But this year, you have developed a very emotional bonding with a number of players on your defense. I think that shows after every game. But with Caden, it's a little different. These are big old bear hugs between guys.
He's a big guy, so if you don't go in there nice and big, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You gotta swell up a little bit there.
And that's what I'm getting at. Is just he has credited you specifically for one of the major reasons why he's been able to develop into this type of player. And I wanted to know, how do you think that relationship has formed? Why do you think you all are so tight? And what do you think explains his rise?
Yeah. I'm just super appreciative to be around all these guys. Like I said before, they're great. They're great young men. I have so much joy when I walk in the room and I see all of them. And K-Mac is no different. He's got a huge smile, and he's a big grizzly bear. And, I can't wait to give him a big old hug. And, I just get so excited to see him really develop and grow. And he's super coachable. He wants to learn. He wants to get better. And to watch him, just kind of light up when something that you kind of talk about and install, and watch that happen on the field and watch him have that success. I mean, that's the joy of coaching, and that is really what has just been so fun for me this year, I guess, in the selfish part of it. My joy of just watching these kids be able to accomplish the things that they really have worked so hard to do. I get very excited, for them to be able to do all that stuff. And it is a special relationship. He's a great young man. I'm just want nothing but the best for him every time we see him. I'll tell you a quick story, though. This is a good one. So he likes to put a lot of the stuff on his face before the games. And so, I give him a good old bear hug before the game, and I walk in, and it's a little trimmed right now, but I walk into the locker room, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, what's wrong with my beard? And I'm like, I look like I'm about 30 on this side, and like where I am right now on this side over here, and this side is, all black, and this side is all gray. And I was like, K-Mac, he hugged me, and all his makeup, all the stuff came off. So it looked like I dyed my beard. It was great. But, those are the fun moments. You can't help but just be excited to be around those guys.
Middle, Matt Murphy.
Matt, Ryan earlier talked about your Super Bowl experience, making runs in the NFL playoffs. Obviously, this layoff is a lot different than what you guys did. How do you handle that thus far? And then looking forward, how do you get these guys ready to play some of the biggest games of the year after such a long time off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trusting in, this is a learning for me, 21 days, that's a long time. We had bye week kind of moments in the NFL, but this is a really long layover and break. So certainly trusting, all of the expertise here, Coach Day and Coach Mick, and making sure that I'm just listening and trying to learn exactly what the best thing is to get us ready to go with this break and this layover. But it's been fun. I mean, I'll say this, I think the intensity is right where we need it to be. I think the guys understand that on the field. They want to stay focused. It is unusual, you kind of like build up through the course of the week and like, okay, hey, let's get ready to go. And then, no, we got to wait one more week and do all that stuff. But I think everyone's doing a great job of handling that. But I'm right now really trying to trust the expertise in the building. I think some of the things, that we did transfer, because we have some different kind of scheduling than, when everybody's in school and that stuff. So, just trying to learn.
Austin Ward.
Matt, I'm not trying to get you in any kind of trouble.
Appreciate
many-
that. I appreciate that.
I know.
Thanks.
So I'm trying to phrase this the right way for you. How many sack-worthy plays did Kenyatta Jackson make against Indiana that did not result in a sack? And if somebody is maybe dealing with situations that are not being officiated in a way that they want, how do you keep a player engaged through that if it's not going their way?
Yeah. I think for me, I've always and this is kind of how I was raised with the game. Like, we're just gonna have to play the game as it's being called, whatever it is, it's how they see it. And that's how we need to play it. And, I just think that for us, if we just keep working our technique and keep working our fundamentals, and, we got to play through whatever it is in those situations. So, can't be frustrated. I think that's the biggest part of it is, you got to stay mentally focused. We got to stay mentally tough in that situation and just play the next play. I always try to tell those guys like, hey, don't measure it. Let's not measure this and then try to say, oh, well, that didn't happen. This is going to happen. Like, just stay in the moment. It's 8-second decisions, 8-second plays that you have to put together for 3 hours. And if one of them doesn't go your way, then the next one, do your best to make it go your way. So I think just staying that kind of mental focus is really important, no matter what those situations are.
Deep center field, Dan Hope.
Matt, with Coach Day taking over the offensive play calling, does that change things for you guys at all on the defensive side of the ball? And does it put any more responsibility on your guys' plate to really make sure the defense is locked down?
No, I mean, defensively, I think we're just trying to make sure we're taking care of our role, our job, doing our job on our side of the ball, and making sure that our stuff is as tight as it can be from that aspect of it. So I think that the team in general, Coach Day does a great job of coaching the team. He's really involved with all three aspects and making sure that, we're approaching everything the right way, playing the game the right way, and all the pieces are coming together to help us, put us in the best situation we can to win. So we're going to just stay focused on making sure we do our job on defense and try to get better each week. So
One more here locally, Joey Goffman.
How long have you coached on the sideline during games, and how do you think that helps, like, interacting with guys during sequences, adjustments? Just it's a different dynamic than maybe we've seen before, and just wondering how it's helped maybe.
yeah, I've my entire NFL career, I called the defense from the sideline. I was on the sideline, honestly, I think since about 2006. So I always just felt that's really kind of how we just did it, there, and even in college, where I was at, there was coordinators who called on, from the sideline too. Previously, I do enjoy the part, exactly what you mentioned, like to be on the field, interact with the guys. Kind of sometimes for me, as we're making adjustments or I'm talking to the kids, I want to make sure I want to see in their eyes, I want to look in their face and make sure that, hey, are you understanding, or how are you doing, how you feel, like how are we progressing through the game? I think when you're away from that, certainly, there's advantages to both. But I do like to be down there with those guys and kind of help them through the problems, right? I think on game day, my job is really try to help us problem solve the situations that are going on. And I think the best way for me to do that is be down there interacting with them and, making sure that I'm listening really to kind of everything that's going on. It's easier for me to kind of hear everything when we have all those moving parts.
Yeah, is that just knowing that the message is coming across, or can they give you kind of like feedback as well? I don't know if there's more receiving end as well.
Yeah, I think absolutely. You kind of, can tell maybe I'm talking about, hey, what do you think about this adjustment? And if they're maybe hesitant or you're not really, not really getting that feedback, like, yeah, I got it. I understand exactly what you're saying. Then you say, all right, maybe it's not worth it. Let's do something else. And I think that's kind of the feedback you're looking for from that kind of direct interaction.
Scotty, how you doing, on your end? Anyone with questions?
Yep, we have three. First one is going to come from Joe Reedy. Go right ahead.
Hey Matt, just wondering, with your experience in the NFL with the playoffs and everything in 3-game runs, how can that transfer into a college football playoff setting, especially with the chance to kind of watch that Cotton Bowl game on Saturday? I mean, watch the first round game this past week.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think Ohio State did a pretty good job last year kind of handling the college football playoffs. So I'm really trying to follow the lead of everybody here. But I think, I've been through playoffs before and understanding when you watch a game and opponents, because we weren't really sure, obviously, who we were going to play. But I think you watch that game with a little bit more intent, a little bit more purpose. And I think maybe that's something we talked about before the game was played. Let's make sure we're watching both, Texas A&M and Miami from a standpoint of, all right, if we have to play these guys, how are we preparing, for the 3 hours they're playing? Like, how are we studying them for the 3 hours? We're not going to watch it as fans. We're going to watch it as, hey, this is our next opponent. And I think, you try to get something we would do in the NFL. You're just trying to gain that advantage. You're trying to gain that edge of preparation where, your potential opponents are worried about somebody else. And during those 3 hours, you're trying to get ahead on preparing and studying, what they do. So that was really kind of probably my biggest message from the last weekend.
And then just coming into the year and the expectations you had, has it been more enjoyable than what you thought it would be, and just how the way the defense is played?
Yeah, well, the defense, I mean, the players have done an unbelievable job. I think they've, again, give them all the credit. I think they've played so hard and aggressive and flying around on the field. And it is a lot of fun. I tell them all the time, it's such a privilege to kind of, be up there in front of the group and talk to the group. But really, it's just such a joy to watch them play on Saturdays and watch how they put a week of work together to go out in the field and perform for 3 hours. And just for me personally, I mean, it has been so much fun to come back to college and have that, I call it a little bit of a youthful energy with the players that we have here and their excitement to go out and play and their camaraderie and the bond that they have and kind of the brotherhood that they've formed. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Next one is from Nick Hamilton. Nick, go ahead.
Hey Matt, just wanted to know, how do you balance between coming up obviously every week with various defensive schemes and then being able to be a manager of these defensive personalities in order to have the ultimate success leading up to where you guys are now getting ready for the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the game plan standpoint, we have a kind of a process that we go through when we're trying to get ready to play an opponent, and that's something I think the coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, has done a great job of all taking different areas that we look at and putting that together to put a plan together to help us give a chance to win. So the staff has been unbelievable with that, and then to be able to take that to the classroom and kind of coach that and teach that to the players has been pretty awesome to watch. Again, we have a great group, so there's never really an issue of, when we put a game plan together of how we think we got to play the game to give us a chance to win. There really isn't a lot of kickback with any of that. I mean, I think the guys in the room, they just want to win. I think they get a lot of joy watching each other make plays. And I think you see that in the excitement out on the field when somebody makes a play and everybody goes running in and wants to celebrate with them. So I think that general appreciation for everybody in the room is really kind of, we haven't really had any issues there, which has been great. So we've just been able to kind of dive in and make sure we're doing everything we can to stop the opponent.
Final one from Zoom land from Bill Landis.
Matt, with Arvell Reese, what's the balance between, when you want to use him as a spy, when you want to really send him after the quarterback and attack the line of scrimmage? And is he at the point at all where sort of just reputationally he might have an impact on the game, even if you decide not to send him? Just sort of like quarterbacks are just kind of always aware of where he is, and even if he's not coming after them, he's still making an impact on the play.
Yeah, that's definitely happened. And even offensive protection systems, a lot of the stuff we attacked early in the season now. I think teams have kind of seen enough film on it, so a lot of times they'll slide, to his spot where he is, or they'll try to make sure they have him accounted for in different ways. So that's great. That gives opportunity to other players on the field to be able to have opportunities when that happens. So I think his impact has been great. I think on the defense has been, his role, his flexibility, the way that we've been able to utilize him has been super special. And I think he's really kind of showcased what he can do and how he can impact the game, which has been awesome to see. But we are kind of seeing some of those game plan things that offenses do to try to handle. When you have an impact player like that, offenses have to adjust. They got to do something. So we're going to try to stay in front of that a little bit.
Jared, that's it from this end.
All right, thank you. We have time for 2 more. Kellyanne Stitz.
Coach Patricia, you talked earlier about this long layoff. How do you help the guys keep their edge in practice during this long layoff?
Yeah, again, relying on kind of the strength staff and Coach Day and everyone that's kind of researched what the best things to do. I think one of the things that we have done is just the intensity of practice has been pretty high, but also trying to balance how long we've been out there too. So, really kind of trying to hit it as hard as we can and then get off and, making sure that we are getting kind of the proper rest along with that. But, some of those really competitive periods, I think kind of keeps everybody with their edge for sure.
Final question, Doug Lamery.
Speaking on Arvell still, you're getting that benefit of the menace without even sending him every time. Is it still worth it to just send him a bunch of times though, because he's still Arvell Reese, and let him go after the QB?
Yeah, I think you don't ever want to not make sure your good players are doing things that they do well. So yeah, it's a good balance, and I think you try to find different ways to do that and certainly use the pieces that we have up front as many ways as we can. Absolutely.
When you're watching film and you can see offenses having to plan for him and then he drops to spy, like, it makes you smile.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, some of that stuff's a lot of fun to see when that stuff happens. So it's good. We'll keep building it and see what we got here coming up. It'll be fun. But yeah, appreciate everybody. Happy holidays to everybody too. You guys have a safe and healthy happy holiday. Appreciate you. Yeah.